Yeah, and welcome
Hello.
back. I have here, which I so rudely interrupted. We're welcome back. We're had a great lunch. I have Chervine here. He's going to tell us everything there is to know, hopefully, about bringing a multicultural team together. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Chervine.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my session. My name is Chervine, and I'm calling from the beautiful island of Mauritius. And I'll share with you my experience over the past 2, 3 years about building a multicultural team, how we started from nothing to building a high-performing team, how COVID impacted us, and how we dealt with that. So let's go. So the following take place between December 2019 and March 2021, so in Mauritius. So we started a small team, which became bigger later, to build a banking app for one of the customers in Mauritius. And I'll walk you through that journey, what happened and how it went live. So the requirement was to build a banking app. It had to be fast, secure, and we did not have all of the talent pool on the island. And Mauritius is actually a remote island found in the Indian Ocean. If you've never come by, it's a great place to be, good place for vacation, and also a great place to work. So our challenge was to go and set up the team from scratch. We had to recruit, onboard people, bring people from multiple places, multiple companies, multiple providers, and hire for multiple roles. But before going there, where I work, it's called like a digital factory. It's we have like an own like style of working. So now I'm talking like before COVID. So we all used to be co-located. We have teams with multiple roles, like product owners, designers, developers, QA. So we have like all work together to build a product. We had like the agile way of working, like that's what they call it. We used to have physical boards around. Since we are co-located, we had a physical board where we have our stand-up, we track our tasks, and we have retros in person. So it was so nice for everybody to be co-located and sit together and work towards a common goal. And now I'll show you what happened next. So that was a bit about how the organization was structured. And now when we started this team, we had to go and hire, bring people from multiple countries. The challenge is like we could not bring all those people on site at the same time. So they were gradually coming over, and also tech being slightly difficult pool of talent to hire. People have notice period, so you don't get everybody at the same time. So when you kind of bring all these people from all these countries together, and they don't have context of how you work, where is the country, what's the culture. You just bring people from all over the place, from multiple backgrounds, multiple talents, multiple skills. You try to take all these people and bring them in one place. You can't just expect that things will work out, right? It's not magic. So what you get when you do that, it's what I call it's the beautiful mess. In terms of the beautiful mess, so I have a small joke that I can tell you. So just because of the fact that people come from multiple places and they don't have context of uh, how the team operates, they don't know the team dynamics. We were in the early stage. I think it was pre-2. We're doing a demo with kind of people from management and things like that. And we had one of the developers who just joined like during the week. It was a backend engineer. He joined during the week. Obviously, he don't know the whole team dynamics and everybody yet. But we were in this meeting room and we were presenting to people from management. And the developer doing the demo, he knows everything. He's just presenting. Yeah, so you click here, there's feature A, B, and C, whatever. And the person who just joined, he just raised his hand and said, in front of management and all these guys, like, hey, this thing, it does not work, it's broke. And everybody in the room was like, what? What happened? Why did he say that? But that's right. That's fine. That's what happened when not everybody have the context and not everybody knows what's happening. It's epic. And then, as I was telling you, like this was before COVID. The organization was working, and not everybody was co-located, working together. And we used to have boards, like physical boards. So you go in the morning, you pick up your task from the backlog, you take a sticky, and you just move those around. And those guys who just joined, they're like, hey, what's that thing? I don't know that. We don't do that here. Why do you want me to stand next to a board each morning and grab a ticket and move it on the board? We don't do that here. What's that thing? So people were just confused about this thing. And for the guys who've worked in the organization for the past year or so, they were like, hey, yeah, cool, that's how we work. But for the new people, they saw it like, no, we just like the tool in the cloud. We just like to click here and that's it. So that was like crazy. So even like when you bring people, you need to make them familiar with the tools and stuff. So that was quite challenging. Then the next thing you see is when you bring all these people from multiple cultures and multiple places together, the next thing you will see it's about the communication challenge. And actually, I was back then the tech lead of that squad, and the most complex thing that you can worst, like when you ask questions to people, you don't always get that genuine answer. And we'll talk more about this later. It's like whenever you ask, hey, can you do it? When can you do it? Is that okay? People will just tell you yes. So you have like two types of people depending on from where they are, their cultural background and things like that. Some people will tell you, hey, no, hey, we can't do that. This is too complex. We need to break that story down to make it simpler, to break it into simpler set of problems. And some people will just tell you yes. Whatever you tell them, it's just a yes. But it's not the person is not the problem. It's actually about the cultural background. So you need to know from what background these persons are coming from. And then as a leader, you change your strategy and adapt yourself to those people's cultural background. Because today, when you are in a leadership in a big company, you won't work with all people that have the same background as you. You need to be able to adapt to multiple types of people. And then in this whole mess, we have COVID that just hits in. So the team started to work well together. The team dynamics started to fit together. And suddenly, hey, COVID hits in. Actually, some of the guys left straight away because in the country borders were closing. So they just had to leave the country like quite fast. And some people were working from home in Mauritius. And the team, remember, right? I was telling you, we were still hiring. The team was still growing. And in the middle of all this, now imagine you bring in a new developer. He does not know the team dynamics. He does not know what decisions were made earlier. He does not know the people. And you just bring like one or two more people in the team in the middle of that when the team itself is trying to adapt with working from home, working with people located geographically remote. It's quite a challenge, right? Quite a challenge. And all this mess is happening in a relatively large organization. So there's about 3,000 employees. The corporate, which has its own challenge in itself, and the team has its own team dynamics, and the company has its own culture. And just imagine, like, close your eyes. Imagine, like, hey, you are a remote developer. You don't know the context. You don't know other people. You are just joining a team, and you are sitting somewhere in your house, and and there's COVID and things are bad, how would you feel? How do you make that person joining your team comfortable? How do you onboard him? How do you make him know the people around? What's the framework that you need to put? So we'll have a look. We'll have a look at this also. So indeed, a big mess. Now we move to the next part of the presentation, where we talk about how did we deal with these situations, and what are the things that I've got to learn along the way to improve the situation and make the team work well together, to move from becoming being a set of individuals sitting randomly over the world to becoming a high-performing team that works well together. So the first lesson I've learned was that whenever, whether you are working remotely or you are co-located, as a leader, it's always good to be able to have some kind of a one-to-one with the team members. That is, block some slot in the calendar, and you can use that slot to allow the team member to give you feedback and ask you questions, as well as for you as a leader to be able to provide feedback and help and coach your team members to grow. But before going into this whole thing, you need to go in with the right mindset. Actually, if you read about it one-to-one, it's one of the most effective way in the professional world to really get to know your team members and to help the team members, to allow for them to know what are the areas they need help, and to really be able to help them and help them grow. So that's one of the great tools that you can use. And to go in, you need to go in with the right mindset. You need to really be flexible. It's not a one-way discussion. You need to be very open to share feedback as well as get feedback, and to get those mechanisms to work. Maybe if the situation allows you to be able to meet in person, so it depends on the context, it's always good to be able to go out for a coffee, 30 minutes, have a walk with the person, make the person really feel comfortable, and make the person really feel at ease to be able to share with you. And once you do this, the person will open up, and you will get to learn more about the team member, and this will allow you to help the person to grow. So that's one of the top tools. And even if it's in remote, it's always good to block 30 minutes on the calendar, just so you know that even there's someone sitting remotely, he knows that, hey, I have 30 minutes each week or each 2 weeks. It depends on you. They know that they have this slot with their leader, and they can ask questions, and they can share any issues or any risk or any area where they need coaching. It makes the person feel safe. So that's really, really helpful. Yeah, and the next thing that definitely we get to learn is about communication. So there's someone who wrote this book called The Culture Map, and he wrote something really, really helpful when you work with people all over the country. They call it low context and high context people, or high context communicators. Basically, it's saying that, hey, there's two kinds of people. They are low context people. Those guys, they are good communicators. They are precise, simple, and clear. Messages are expressed and understood at face value. And so whenever they need to tell you something, they will just come straight at you and say, hey, this is not good. This is at risk. We don't think we can do this. personally, I find it easier, and you just get the feedback straight away, and it helps you take decisions. But then there are high context people who are like nuanced and layered. Like they won't tell you straight away what's like the issue. There might be like sous-entendu, like there are messages that are implied but not told explicitly. So, and the author of this book, they try to explain like show like there are people from different cultures and how they they communicate differently. And as a leader, it's important for you to be able to know that, hey, this person, he is a high context communicator, and this person is a low context communicator, and this will help you. So let's say now you are leading a project, and you might know
that, and he just rejoined here. Be able to put him back on here very shortly for you. Look at that. We missed you.
I got a power cut. It's like they found the perfect timing to get power cut. It's fine. It happens. Right?
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Yeah. So we were just talking. Yeah. All right, I'm back. So we were just talking about high context and low context communicators. And one of the ways to deal with that is to ask slightly more structured questions to help the person you are asking the question figure out that something might be wrong instead of just asking yes or no question. This would help you and the person you are asking the question to express themselves better to get a better answer. And that's just because there are multiple cultures and multiple languages, right? That's how the world works. For example, one of the funny thing, if you look at the amount of words that's in the English language and versus the amount of words that is the French language versus the amount of words that's in Hindi, for example, it's completely different. It's like the foundation of how people communicate. It is fundamentally different. And one of the, like, for example, examples that I use to check is the use of the word curl in Hindi. So depending on the sentence, you will just use the word curl. It might be yesterday, it might be tomorrow, it might mean today, but it just depends on the context of the sentence, and it just means different things. So that's just how people express themselves. And as a leader, it's important to understand the background of the person for you to know how people communicate. And if you happen to watch the Netflix film Emily in Paris, and you will see that, for example, people in France, how they communicate and how much they are like sous-entendu, like they say in French.
All right, Chervine is back. We believe internet is solved. We fixed internet, everybody. Let's go ahead and resume. I can't wait to hear more.
Thank you very much. Apologies for that. Not the right day for internet today. Yeah, so one of the strategies that I found that work consistently to when you're in that position where you need to talk to people coming from multiple backgrounds is to have a framework to make sure that the communication always goes through. It's like, hey, whenever you're in a meeting or a Zoom call, it's like always be clear, transparent, and be as specific as possible. Don't assume people are understanding, and always explain the why. Don't just come and say people, hey, just do A, B, C, and D. Always try to explain the why, and this really helps people to buy into the idea. And if depending on the situation, you might also help the team to take a collaborative decision, kind of coach the team, help allow everybody to speak up, share their feedback, and help the team to find a common solution. And this also generally help the team to buy into the solution. And of course, some people, they like to send like a minutes of meeting to write an email. I'm not a big fan of that. I would usually just document what we just discussed on the Confluence page, share the link with everybody so that if someone has a better idea or still want to discuss about it, we can still collaborate via the Confluence page or any kind of online tool. And of course, always allow people to ask for clarification. And the most important thing that I found this really worked for me is to then always follow up in the one-to-one, because depending on the culture of people, so not everybody like to express themselves when they are in group, because some people, they won't feel comfortable to ask questions in front of like a meeting of 10 people. But then when you are doing your one-to-one, always do a follow-up, we catch up. Hey, we talk about topic X, but could you do it? Are you having any challenges? How is it going? And this allows you to kind of close that feedback loop. And that's, I think, one framework that you can use to communicate all of your important decisions when you are leading a multicultural team coming from multiple backgrounds. Okay, and moving over, one of the also very important theme when you're bringing up a team together, it's about education. So I believe most of us here must be working in some kind of technology sector, developers and things like that. But when I'm saying education here, it's not only about the tech side of things. It's also important to learn about the team dynamics, to understand what each people in the team do, how they do it, what should you do when you're getting an issue, how do you escalate the problem, how do you get help. Basically, what people do, what's everybody's role, that's like very, very important to kind of set the basis and to help everybody in the team understand what each other roles are doing. There was one example, like there was a product designer in the team, and the product owner just said, hey, it's just a design change, and just change it. And the developers just stepped up and said, hey, I don't have a magic wand. It's not just to change a design. There's a lot of research that goes behind. There's a lot of thinking that goes behind for me to come up with that thing. There was a usability test. I can't just change it. I can't just move it around. Same thing goes for developers. You might often get the feedback like, hey, it's just a button, put it here. No, just do this. The developer might, in his mind, say like, hey, that's like 3 days of work. Why do you want me just to do this here? That's not how life works. Things needs to be planned and designed, architected, developed, tested. So it's not anybody's fault, actually. It's just people don't know what other roles really do. It's very important to also help people understand what they really do, what goes behind their work, what's being done to get that output, whether it's an image, whether it's design, whether it's a code, whether it's an architecture document. All this is work. And that's one of the things that I found people usually miss or don't really focus on. It's really important. And we also talk about, at some point in time, we started to onboard developers remotely. I think 2 years back, it was very new to the organization. It was the first time that the organization was doing it. Now it's normal. We do it all the time. We are still doing it. Currently, we have like a working remotely. It's now the standard. It's the primary way of working. Actually, I did not go to office for quite some time. I don't even know how that looks like. But yeah, so how do you make that happen? Still here, also it's the same thing, right? You can't just take someone coming from the other side of the world and just put them here and expect that they would work. That won't work. It's very important to have kind of a good plan to help to onboard people. By plan, I mean, yes, they need to know what's the tech tool. They need to know what framework is being used. They need to know what design pattern was used. They need to know what are the coding standards. All these tech things, yeah, that's fine. And it's good to kind of have this documented somewhere so that everybody who joined the team, they get this information straight away versus having to go and ask people around. But it's also important to show these people you're onboarding who are the important people in the organization. Like, hey, in the team, we have a peer, we have a tech lead, there's I don't know, a product designer, there are other developers. Yes, that's fine. But they also need to know, hey, if I get an issue with the database, who do I need to contact? If something is crashing somewhere, how do I find my way around? All these things that even beyond the team, that someone who you are onboarding would definitely needs to know that, pack all this together, plan it so that the people joining, when they join, they will be effective and they know all these things. And one thing that I see that people usually don't focus on is also to share onto the team dynamics and the team values and what the team agreed on. Because let's say you already have a team of 10 people working, they kind of agreed on, what's our way of working, what time do we start, we want to finish early on Fridays, things like that. We agreed that the developers would write a unit test. We agreed that the QA would test on environment X. So all these kind of team agreements, it's also important to play it back with the people you are onboarding to get the person up to speed quite fast. And yeah, most importantly, have an observation period. Don't expect that, hey, we just onboarded person X from company Y and they will just work straight away. No, that's not how it works. Always create some buffer time, I don't know, depending on your team, maybe 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, just to let the person observe and see how the team works. So he might also in this time like build the code and start to run it, to have a look, see how people are raising pull requests, how pull requests being reviewed, to just analyze a bit the situation, and this helped to ease a lot this remote onboarding process. So just to recap on this one, always have a plan that covers both the tech and the non-tech side. I think that's very important. Usually the tech side is covered and the non-tech side it's usually that people tend to forget, but I believe it's also very important. Then in our organization, like then there's what I call the collaboration mess, because I told you there's about 3,000 employees. That's a lot of teams, a lot of people, a lot of roles. So it's kind of very difficult for someone who's just joining the team to find your way around. Sometimes you need help and you don't know how to get the help from the other teams. And that's usually very confusing when new people is joining the team. So as part of the onboarding process or any teams, you need to define what is the communication strategy with other teams. Like, can you talk directly with the engineers? Should you go to the tech lead or should you raise a ticket? So that's the small things that once documented really make life easier. And generally, there's ways that to make, let's say, team A depends on team B, if there's ways to make these people get to know each other, or if there are ways to make them kind of sit in the same team temporarily. Let's say they are both working on project A. So if you can temporarily let the person also kind of work in the team for project A to let them really get to know each other, it kind of helps the whole collaboration process. So next time when the person from team A get an issue, they would know, hey, I know this guy, I've talked to him, I know him, okay, I can chat with him, I get help. So getting help and being able to collaborate, it's one of the most important things. Okay, that's also something that I've learned along the way. It's also got to do with communication style, but regarding something which is called upgraders and downgraders. So if you don't are not familiar with it, you might be very confused about what people really mean. Because like in some culture, they would add certain words which are called upgraders. They use this word to enforce their communication style, right? So one example of this would be like, for example, um, someone in British might say, "Hey, this is very interesting," but then what the British actually mean is that, hey, I don't like it. But the Dutch, who him, based on his persona, he's very direct, he would think that, hey, that's very good. So actually, there's a difference between what the first person said, what he mean, and what the other people understand. So that's definitely just because of their cultural background. So it's very, very important um, as as a leader to be able to know what these different people are saying and what they actually mean, and not, and that's very important. For example, when in Dutch, it's very rarely that someone would use the word excellent. It's quite rarely used, because when someone from Dutch culture would say excellent, it really means that it's excellent. It's like the top most best thing ever. Whereby an American would use the word excellent all the time. He would say, "Hey, how's this work? Excellent. How was the meeting? Excellent." It's just what they are saying. It's based on their culture. And similarly, some cultures they would be using like downgraders. So if like they they are like disappointed, they might say, um, let's use an example. For example, the British might say, "I was a bit disappointed that," but what he actually means is that, "Hey, I am very upset." But someone who takes it literally might understand, "Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't really matter." So it's just the communication style and how people give you feedback and how also you would share feedback. It also helps to kind of adjust the communication method based on the different people you are communicating with. And all these things that I just showed you, I think it's just a few frameworks, a few techniques that you can use to help you to really understand people, to understand that people is coming from different culture. And it's also kind of join a bit what the Agile Manifesto was all about when it was written years back. It just joined these principles, and I also believe that in your general development process in your team, if you tend to adopt these techniques, um, it should help you get your life and build software better. It's not just about buying expensive software, buying all kind of tools. It's also more about understanding the person. Like one of those that I really like, it's like individual and interactions over processes and tools. So if you take time to understand people, understand how are people interacting, um, understand the culture of people as a leader, I think it really helps you to lead better, to understand the team, and to help the team better. And so today we're this team. Today we have a team which is about 20 people. They have had multiple releases on production, grown from a culture which was there before, like making a release each 6 months or so, and now making, for example, a deployment each week or multiple times per week. To have a team that now itself, it's self-improving. They are they understand each other. They know how to communicate. They know how to improve their process, and they are growing. And I believe it's because of like applying those practices. We had a bunch of people coming from different backgrounds, and now they have come a team, that high performing team, being able to grow, to improve, and to ship good quality software. And just to follow up on this presentation, if there are things that you would like to learn more and read more about it, there's these two books which I really enjoyed reading, and it helped me a lot along the way. The Culture Map and Radical Candle. Yeah, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Chervine. That was great. Appreciate the really attention to communication and how difficult it is between cultures. Just gonna check the chat, see if we have any questions here. Give it a few seconds. There's a little bit of lag here as the chat catches up to us here. You know, Chervine, one question I had after watching that is, you know, after it's all said and done, and after you had kind of, you know, figured this out, did you give the same kind of talk to your other team members to kind of share these same insights with them? Was that part of your regular one-on-one feedback?
Yeah, definitely. And actually, we have been growing much more teams after that. And we used all these lessons to help build new teams. And also today in my role is to coach these new teams, mostly from an engineering side, but also to coach them from the people side, to help these new teams, help them grow and help them reach that kind of maturity level. So that's kind of what I do.
Great. It's a good tip there. I don't see any questions popping up, but just as a reminder, there you can there's a Zoom link at the top. You can hop in after the talk here and ask Chervine questions if you have any additional ones you think of here in the next few minutes. Else, I believe we're gonna take a quick short break here before we resume here in about 15 minutes. And thank you so much, Chervine, again for that great talk.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. Bye.